Other interesting political news, you have United Auto Workers to order 8,700 members to walk off of Ford's Kentucky truck plant. Yet another good reason to relocate to Texas and, hire non-unionized workers who are, much more efficient and cost a fraction of the price and make more reliable products. But nevertheless, I'm sure the big three know what they're doing. Now, in terms of the strategic reason to do a strike on the truck, that's really, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor since we're talking about the union, kneecapping them, so to say. That is the most profitable, important thing that a company in the automobile community manufactures. There's a reason Chevy doesn't make the Chevy Cruze anymore. Most of those small compact cars, they're built to a price point. They're supposed to be entry-level vehicle, and they might make, I believe, actually when I was in the automotive industry, the dealerships would make negative $458 per unit when they sold the Chevy Cruze, which is a compact car. The only way they ever made any money was financing and options. And then, of course, they pray you come back and buy a truck. Those are highly profitable. They're the most profitable thing that these companies are selling, with the exception of EV trucks, which lose money. But over time, they will eventually break even and make a profit, similar to Tesla in general. Now, this is Ford's golden goose, so to say. Of all things Ford's made throughout the years, they're known for trucks and the Mustang, which, given a compliment to Ford, they still make the V8 and a stick shift, which is a rare thing in and of itself. I would argue they won the pony war since General Motors killed the Camaro again, and the new Charger from Dodge is going to be electric. So much for American motors or American muscle. Ugh. But nevertheless, this plant is vital to Ford's success. Now, especially right now, Ford, again, they're partially going EV just because the government's forcing them to. Well, Ford just has three divisions. You have Ford Blue, which is the Ford that you and I like, or most people like. That's the one that actually makes money. It's the Ford Mustang, that's the Ford F-150, it's all the Ford trucks. Then you have Ford EV, which is the EV part. You got the Ford Mustang E-Mach, as well as the F-150 Lightning. And then you have Ford Commercial for the big ginormous trucks. The EV part is the one that's burning through cash and losing them money. The only way they are making any profit right now is because of Ford Blue, the original Ford internal combustion engine manufactured vehicles. And the truck's the most important one, bar none. I mean, this is the most popular truck ever. Now, in terms of this plant, it manufactures the Ford Super Duty trucks. They're large SUVs, the Ford Expedition, Lincoln Navigator, which again, SUVs are another huge profitable thing. And it's just because Americans put a huge value on those vehicles compared to compact cars. And Americans are willing to pay six figures for an SUV. Personally, I'm too frugal to do something like that, and I'd rather have my little compact Honda with three pedals like every vehicle should have. It's also Honda, so it'll last a quarter century or a million miles, presumably. Now, it looks like the walkout at this Kentucky plant would significantly add to the 25,300 auto workers who are currently taking the day off, striking, at the big three with Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. Now, do a little bit of math here today, which, because I know public schools are all-time low in terms of test scores. Everything from history, math, science, perhaps because teachers are more focused on teaching ideologies and actual, real-life important things. So we're going to do a fun little math here today and arguably provide more value than in a public school, though it's not saying much. Now, the UAW is currently paying their members about $500 per week to strike. Keep in mind they have a big fund to estimate between $820 and $850 million. So they have a lot of time where they can strike. Now, you have $500 per week times 20, what's the current number? 25,300. And if I could not fat thumb the buttons on the little computer here. So every week, that's $12.65 million that they're paying out. Which, I was going to say, is good for the union members because they're actually finally getting something for paying all their dues. With, so hilariously and ironically, the dues are usually used for electing politicians who, the politicians they elected are banning internal combustion engines, which is the most popular thing, and politicians are forcing them to make EVs, which will require less rudimentary labor in terms of having UAW members needed. And of course, those politicians also caused the 40-year hyperinflation. So, I appreciate good irony, and that's hilarious to say the least, many would say. Now, each week they're spending about $12.65 million to pay them to carry signs, which, good God, I wish I got paid that much for doing that little work. To think of how much I've worked throughout the years relative to that, astonishing. So, right now that's 12.6 million. So they got, say, $840 million divided by 12,650. So this could go on for, again, this is if they keep the current rates of people who are currently protesting or striking, they can keep this going for 66 weeks. Now keep in mind, again, I know public school is all-time low. There are 52 weeks in a year, or calendar year. So they can not work for a whole year and get paid to do it, actually. Some might argue that's what they usually do during the week, but nevertheless, it's one of those situations where that's why I don't think this strike is going to come to an end anytime soon. They have a lot of money to sustain this strike. And again, they're asking for revolutionary ask. And they're arguing it's because the big three are making lots of profits, hilariously enough, in terms of putting the big three bankrupt again. When I say big three bankrupt, General Motors and Chrysler went bankrupt in 2009, impartially because of the UAW, because they had such high benefits. They have more benefits than any other automotive company out there. I mean, their cost of labor before this strike was already the highest. You look at Tesla, their labor cost is lower, their product is cheaper, and for the short term, more reliable. Granted, it's an EV, so is it going to last you 20 years? Hell no. Not with the current tech we have now. Maybe tomorrow, technology moves very quick. There might be some new widget that makes it possible to have it be a long-term reliable vehicle. But perhaps a good metaphor would be Honda or Toyota. Those do last a quarter of a million miles, or actually no, more than that, a quarter of a century and a million miles. Their cost of labor is much lower. And again, the big three are trying to become EV companies. I don't know if that's a business decision that's going to be fruitful for them. They're going up against Tesla when they're known for making great V8 engines. And for that, they're going to have to put all their profits into these new factories and the new initiatives. They're going to hire a lot more computer engineers, computer scientists. They're going to need a lot of engineering resources to go down the path they want to. Now, it'll be interesting to see, because again, the first proposal from the UAW was going to cost them between $80 and $100 billion over the course of a 4-year contract, which would have bankrupted the companies. The amount of profit they make per year was less than that amount the UAW is asking. Again, the UAW still, they went down, I believe, to 30%, which again, I don't know anyone who's gotten a 30% raise ever over the course of a 4-year contract. Also, they want a cost of living adjustment in addition to the raise. Hilariously, the cost of living adjustment, which they partially caused because of who they got elected, but also they want pensions, they want extra medical benefits, they want to work 32 hours a week but get paid 40 hours a week, which, in terms of, that is a good metaphor for what unions are, but none of those things are viable right now. And again, I don't know how much of their incentive is for the UAW to stop, because again, their president that they elected wants to strike. They want the strike. You look at all the polls where he asked, they said, hey, should we go on a strike? And they all overwhelmingly, in the 99 percentile, voted yes in many cases. And with the big three, GM, Ford, Stellantis, what incentive do they have to stop the strike right now? Are you going out to buy a vehicle right now? It's one of those situations where there's a lot of economic uncertainty. Like we said previously, if you're watching the whole episode, you just had all these other layoffs, including the Washington Post, you got Google, you got Juniper Networks. Most companies are laying people off. At the same time, the UAW wants greater benefits than ever before. I don't see how that's sustainable. And again, the big three, there's not a huge demand for cars right now. Huge interest rates, also hilariously, some might say impartially caused by the UAW because they voted for politicians who printed more money than ever before, and you had to raise interest rates, yada, yada, yada. So you have huge interest rates, you have economic uncertainty. There's not a lot of demand for vehicles right now. And on what demand there is, why not buy a Toyota or a Honda? It'll last a lot longer. But let me know in the comments, what do you think will be the outcome? Because this will hurt Ford. The trucking plant is one of the most important plants. Will they just hire, some pejoratively call them scabs? I refer to them as band-aids to help offset this issue. Will they just hire more workers that aren't unionized to do the job? It'll be interesting to see. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you again for taking the time to tune in today. Cannot thank you enough. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October. So if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Any suggestions to make the show better are always welcome to the comments section. I might take a day or two to get to them depending on my work schedule, but I always try to do my best to address all the comments. I appreciate the critique to make the show better. Also, lastly, don't forget to take time to Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.